Good evening, everyone. You guys copy me, okay? Make sure you guys can hear me, okay? Can somebody give me a yes? We hear you, okay? Sound is good. Giordano's nice. Hey, Erica, Rachel, Texas Guide, Vicky, Sandra, La Mera Mera, how are you? Everyone, split personality. Dina, hi there. Erica, Christy's in the house. Canalito and Gina, Alma, and everyone else who's going to be popping in here in just a minute. In case you weren't here earlier, we're going to restream the video from earlier, 2 hours plus. You know what I'm talking about. A lot was said. A whole lot was said. And although we might know why she does it. I mean, is that why she does it? I mean, I don't go and talk about rocket science and read an article and then go back and claim I know everything there is to know about rocket science. I think Elon Musk would have something to say about that, right? So I don't claim to be a rocket scientist expert just because I read an article or two or three. And for someone to make so many claims and so many strong, I don't know, I want to call them opinions, but she's very set in her ways that, oh no, this is what happened. This is the facts. This is what should have happened. Hey, Carol. So aside from being a nurse, a biologist, and now a tactical police expert, SWAT team expert, whatever title you want to do it. Now she knows more than the police do on what should have happened or how things are supposed to happen, or is a reason behind things happening the way they are. And then you're going to start to talk down on the police officers. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Something went wrong, all right? But something was up, and everything will eventually come to light. The investigations are going on, and you saw the article I just posted. The Uvalde police and the school district are no longer cooperating with the investigation. And there's reasons for that. And they should have been more tight-lipped from the very beginning. I mean, right from the very beginning, so many reports coming out. This is happening. That's happening. This person is the shooter, or that person shot and killed so-and-so. And they couldn't get in. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, the school resource officer, he let him in. He opened the door to the first responders. Or no, it was the shooter confronted the resource officer. And then later, well, that didn't even happen. The resource officer wasn't even there. And I'm not saying anybody's lying. I'm just saying too much information was coming out way too soon. And there are some some media, perhaps. Everybody wants to be the first one to report something all the time. Everybody wants to be the first. And sometimes to the point of making shit up. And that's not cool. That's why I don't like to say, oh yeah, this is what happened. This is exactly what's happened. Because guess what? I wasn't there. And she wasn't there. So I know she don't know what the hell what happened there. I wasn't there. She wasn't there. And like I said earlier, I've got some people in the security business that I trust, and they're in contact with those people in Uvalde, and they're not even saying anything. And normally they pass very good, legit information. So when they say, you know what, we don't know what happened yet, that's who I believe. I'm not going to believe somebody who just wants to pick up or look at an article or something, start reading and make it sound like she was there. You got people who want to insert themselves into every freaking thing possible for their own agenda, whatever that agenda might be. And it's sickening. It's sickening. Because you got a whole community. It's not a large community. It's about 16,000 if I remember correctly. And you have a lot of dead children. And now you want to start this mess, draw attention to yourself instead of letting them be, man. Give them their space. Why you want to start crap? It's none of our business what's going on over there. We can feel bad. We can do things to help or contribute, be there, emotional support. But we got to let them be, Jack. This ain't about me. You don't have to make this the VT show, in Uvalde. Hell no. So why do you want to come and step in and take the scene, take over, and make it about? Why does somebody want to come in and make it about them? I mean, blatantly. Not even trying to be sneaky about it. Even to talk about, I gained 2,000 followers because of this. Like that tells you right there, right? So anyway, without further ado, I want to start playing the video because it's a bit long. Everyone, thank you for coming in. Let's see who's in here. Maricela, hey there. I see some Peacock people, I believe. Hello, welcome everyone. She's a disgusting yap. Mirena, welcome. And anyone else who comes in after that. Hey Marley, Maria, Karen, how you doing? And no, just so you know, no shenanigans are going to be tolerated today. Period. I don't care who you are. So, you guys ready for this thing? I sure am. For those of you who couldn't watch it, I couldn't play the whole thing earlier when it was live because I was not home. So, I want to take the opportunity and play the whole thing right now. And we'll chit-chat during the process. So. Taylor, Rose, hi there. Gloria, welcome. Alma and Carol. Hey, I see a different toxic Terminator. How you doing? Pretty Bird, Kibasa, Joetta Fink, hey there.
Hello.
Enjoy the show, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
No BS in here. Enjoy the show and let's talk about this.
Hi. Hello, Leo and Erica Perez. How are you doing? Martha Mendoza, Amanda Griffith, Miss Christina Annette Delgado, Beatriz Hernandez. Okay. This is going to be a follow-up of, this is Vanessa Tijerina coming at you live here in South Texas. And this is, again, going to be about Officer Alvarado. You know what? I've never seen that name because down here where I'm from.
Yeah. I'll let her finish.
That name's only spelled with the first B in his name is spelled with a D.
It's Alvarado.
Right. So out of courtesy, I was trying to incorporate the B sound, but I'm just gonna call him Officer Alvarado because you really can't tell. I guess when you say it, you can't tell whether it's a V or a B. And sometimes people have sometimes people along the way may have been, something may have happened. Maybe that was their name this entire time from the beginning of their genealogy, or maybe somehow along the way the B was dropped to a V somehow. I have no idea. But if you all know things like Ellis Island, when we had immigrants come over and people were just.
Why does the ghetto Ebonics think, man? This always fascinates me when she talks. What the hell is up with that? Is there some kind of a medical, psychological something? You ever hear about these people who've had like surgery on their teeth or whatever, and they're out, surgically, right? They're anesthesia, and they wake up speaking a whole other language. Is that something like this? It's
getting their names wrong, and guess what? For the rest of their ancestry, that's how the name was going to be, right? So Alvarado, got it. Off-duty Customs and Border Patrol Agent Alvarado. Few things. I'm going to go right into it. I talk about things that I care about, right? And people along the way, they do not like me. They actually hate me very, very much. The same people that do not like me talking about these things, along the way, they group up. So the people that did not like me when I stood up for my son, for my first son 7 years ago, they grouped up with the people that didn't like that I stood up for my second son 6 years ago. And they didn't like it when I grouped up, and they all group up. For 7 years, these people have been grouping up and grouping up and grouping up. And so, of course, now they're grouping up with Officer Alvarado's family. Yeah. What I don't appreciate is this.
cheers.
You have a platform. You don't like what I'm saying. There are people being buried right now, children that are being buried right now. And we don't know if those actions could have been prevented. We're saying now one child bled out, and that could have been prevented. This is going to be about
We don't know that fact. If it did happen, we don't know those details. And why do you need to spew that? Like you said, there's little kids getting buried. Their wakes being held. I think the first burial is either today or tomorrow. Why do you got to pour salt in those wounds and make this about you? Nobody gives a care about you right now. Ugh.
the Uvalde school shooting that happened last week. Okay. And I need to clear up some things. And yeah. So this officer's family doesn't want me talking about this.
Okay, that's the first clue that you need to mute yourself and stop. Kill it. This is people from that community. Maybe they got family that were affected by this. Maybe they're people of law enforcement that was involved in this. This was tragic for everybody. Obviously, those who paid the ultimate price, but everybody's traumatized by this. What? Why does she gotta? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want to keep stopping it.
If you're a patriot, if you took an oath, you also took an oath to follow the Constitution. That's my right. What you're doing to me is not a right. You don't have the right to harass people. You don't have the right to slander people. You don't have the right to defame people. When I'm talking about what your family member, off-duty Officer Abelardo, those are his words. His words. His words. I'm using his words. So were it not for him using those particular words, then this may not even be an issue. Okay? All right. To Officer Alvarado's family, you can group up with however many of the hateful people that don't like me. And guess what? This is still going to happen. It's still going to happen. Okay? All right? God did not allow me to survive 3 hours of torture, right? At the hands of hate. For me to be silenced by Officer Alvarado's family. Okay, here we go. During the tragedy that is the Uvalde school shooting, we had people that showed up to try to save their children. I read you the timeline on Saturday morning. You can go down and you can check the timeline. Okay? Officer Alvarado, just as a side note, you don't want me talking about this. You can thank your family for this. This video is brought to you per the choices of your family to come to me. Okay? I told you I was very serious when I said, if I have to do more follow-up videos, I will.
So even though his family came out and said, STFU, she's not going to. She doesn't care because it's all about her and what she knows. Woman, what you don't know could fill a book. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right.
I will. Okay? You're not going to harass me into silence. You are not. It doesn't matter if there's 50 of you, 100 of you. It doesn't matter. What matters is that perhaps some of the choices that Officer Alvarado made that day perhaps led to taking resources away from the victims that were locked in that room that day. That's what matters. That's what matters. And I know you really badly don't want people to know about that. I know. Who would want you want your family members to go down as heroes in a situation like that. You don't want anybody to know. The last thing you want people to concentrate on is the...
This ain't just about heroes. There doesn't have to be a freaking hero. This is a tragedy. There doesn't need to be a hero. If there was one, then there was one. But nobody's looking to be the hero right now. All right. Okay. Sorry.
Fact that Officer Alvarado made statements to the Associated Press that he is now leaving out of his new interviews. You don't think the public's interested in this? No officer would do that. If no officer would do that, then why do you have the chief of police changing his mind 12 times? So if we know that the chief of police in regards to this situation has already to this day changed his mind 12 times as to the events of that day, What makes y'all think that Officer Alvarado is not going to change his story once? All right. Yes, those are the words that he spoke during the interview. Okay. Now here we go.
Okay. So there was earlier, just a little while ago, the Uvalde police, the school board, announced that they're not cooperating with the investigation anymore. All right. Reasons for this? Yes. One reason, probably the main reason, too freaking much information is out there coming from everywhere. Everybody's talking. And a lot of people are talking that don't know anything. They were not inside. They were not outside there. Too many people sharing too much information that is not accurate. So everything is getting distorted. So what are they going to do? Separate themselves, cut off. Yes, they got to figure out. They have to figure out what's going on. And I know they talked about a timeline. Yeah, there have been a couple of timelines. We got to see if that is accurate or not. And nothing is going to be finalized for a long freaking time. This is not a little investigation which is going to wrap up in a few days. This is hardcore serious.
Officer Alvarado
She can't even say
came to my attention
Dumbass.
because I was like, another hero. Man, this man leapt out of his seat. He was getting a haircut, off-duty Customs and Border Patrol agent. I was invested. I was fully invested. I was like, look at this father. He went over there. There's a little bit questionable there, because why was he allowed to go in? When other parents were literally, how do you think the parents feel if any of the ones that were trying to get in, their child died?
See, why do you got to bring that up and rub it in people's faces that somebody's kid died? Do you think this is necessary? Is this for you only? This is
No, we don't care about that, right? Because we just want Officer Alvarado to go down as a hero, right? Obviously, the family is watching me right now, right? There's children being buried today that we don't know yet, but the possibility 100% exists. The possibility exists that during Officer Alvarado's act of heroism, he took precious resources away from the people that were trapped, the victims that were trapped, the teachers and the students that were trapped. Maybe one of them or a few getting buried today or tomorrow or the next day.
From what I read, that did not happen. He did not take resources from anyone else. This is slander. You're basically accusing a man of facilitating the death of other people that there that day.
How, Vanessa? You already know. I'm going to explain it, right? Let's go. Let's go there. So I see this and I'm like, well, it's kind of questionable, because why were they tasing parents? Why were they dropping them on the floor? And all of those charges against those parents should be dropped. By the way, if I haven't not said that yet, they should all be dropped. All be dropped. Officer Alvarado, we know now, I have not mentioned, he had previously that morning been in a ceremony for his daughter. Because it's the end of the school year and you know how there's going to be ceremonies.
A lot of people
So I'm guessing after the ceremony is when he went to go get a haircut. So while he was there in his barber's chair, he got the text from his wife letting him know that there was an active shooter. Now, before I go on, let me mention before the end of this video, I'm going to let you know that there were statements that Mr. Alvarado is now giving the Associated Press that not only leaves out what I'm going to remind you of right now, but that is honestly the events that he is now giving people in interviews. Literally, it sounds like he'd been watching my videos. So now he knows what to say. I promise you.
Wait.
Y'all have been watching my videos.
What did she just say? I'm going to go back just a little bit.
Is when he went to go get a haircut. So while he was there in his barber's chair, he got the text from his wife letting him know that there was an active shooter. Now, before I go on, let me mention before the end of this video, I'm going to let you know that there were statements that Mr. Alvarado is now giving the Associated Press that not only leaves out what I'm going to remind you of right now, but that is honestly the events that he is now giving people in interviews. Literally, it sounds like he'd been watching my videos.
No comment.
So now he knows what to say. I promise you. Y'all have been watching my videos. And I had told you point by point why this should be questioned. And it's interesting now that when he's giving these new videos, he's leaving out these certain elements. Here we go. So he went to go get a haircut. He got a message from his wife stating,
"You believe this?
There's an active shooter. I love you." So who's not going to go, right? He immediately leapt out of that chair, asked the barber, I need a weapon, obviously, right? I'm going to go and there's an active shooter. My wife's a teacher. My child's in there. I'm going to go save my wife and my child. I'm with the story, right? I'm already invested. Wonderful. That's great. That's awesome, right? So then he gets...
Oh, I'm glad you approve, Vanessa. So glad you approve.
It's there. By this time, he was allowed to waltz in. Oh, but he had training. We're going to go to where his training... If he had training, then why didn't he tell the people that were having his back covering him, hey, our training says you need to stay over there and keep trying to engage the shooter. Please just allow me on my own to go and save my daughter and my wife. Okay, y'all go do your jobs. So if you want to talk about training. Okay? All right. So he gets there. And unlike other parents who were at the fence, who may or may not have lost children, burying some today, maybe next week, or some fighting for their lives right now, right? So he gets there fighting.
Real quick, I'm being told that she's live right now. Dilemma. I go take a look.
At the fence to try to get in to do exactly the same thing that Officer Alvarado wanted to do. They allowed him to go in. But they allowed him to go in. In his new interviews, he's stating they knew who I was and they knew that officers were responding. Yeah, but you were responding.
All right. Gonna switch. Stand by. Now I'm going to switch. Hold on. No tenía no weapon.
Y su corazón. Y es todo. Sus brazos. Es todo lo que tenía. Ella no les dijo a los oficiales que estaban dentro de la escuela, hey, den por favor, yo no tengo ni pistola, nada, por favor.
We got sound, right? We got sound, you guys?
Como lo hizo Alvarado, esta mujer no lo hizo así, ¿no? Ella es un hero de ese día. Las dos maestras, que es Eva Mereles y Linda García, las dos maestras que se murieron cuando estaban ayudando a sus estudiantes, ¿ok? Ellos eran heroes también, ¿ok? Y últimamente, el hero es el oficial que no estaba trabajando y ayudó al Special SWAT Team, Federal BORTAC, y dijo, yo te ayudo. Él fue y él hizo el trabajo que no hicieron los 19 que estaban en la escuela y los 80 a 100 que estaban afuera de la escuela. Él es el que paró la vida del tirador. ¿Ok? All right. Listen, I'm going to do video right now. Voy a hacer uno en inglés. Muchas gracias, ¿ok? Tengan paciencia, por favor, conmigo. Por favor, ¿ok? All right. Gracias. We'll talk about that right now in English.
Yeah, that's the other part.
Gracias. Bye-bye.
I'm glad somebody reminded me. She keeps saying, I forgot what name she was saying. Irma Garcia. She ended her life. All right, so we can go back to the other one, right? I think she's going to come back. But in the meantime, I'll switch to her, go back to the original one. And if she comes back live, we will go there too.
You're trying to make it seem in your new interviews as if you were responding. Collectively, in the best interest of everybody involved. That's what you're trying to make it seem like. But your first interview that a lot of us read says something different. So he's no longer in his new interviews. After the last 2 days in the new interviews, he's no longer telling you what he told the news prior. So before my videos came out, he was telling the news. I got there. They were already forming a team. This is not the BORTAC team that was on its way from Laredo. Had not gotten there yet. This was the 19 officers that were there in the school. Okay. So when Officer Alvarado got there, he's leaving this. What I'm about to tell you will no longer ever be mentioned in any interviews from 2 days forward. For the rest of his life, he's not going to mention this unless he's questioned about it by the Department of Justice, which he should be, because this matters. What he told the news was this. I got there. I formed a plan with the officers there. They covered me. We formed a team. I led a team. He did not lead a team with other officers that he brought in off duty. He led a team. What officers did he lead that team with? I'm trying to pick your brains here so that I won't do the thinking for you. What officers do you think he formed a team with? This is what his family is mad at me for. This is what his family doesn't want me to say. Even though there's children being buried today, or will be buried this week, perhaps due to exactly what I'm asking you right now and what I'm speaking to you about right now. You see, Officer Abelardo told the Associated Press that he got there. He formed a team with the officers there. He formed a plan. He led them. Where were you leading them to, first of all? Because their jobs, which the director of the DPS knows, their jobs were to keep engaging the shooter. So what training was it to Officer Alvarado And wait a minute, let me remind you, Officer Alvarado was aware. You're going to tell me that the chief of police didn't tell him the threat is contained in one room.
Guys, I'll be
have
back.
A barricaded subject.
I'll be back, but I'm going to leave this
which
right
it wasn't.
here. Okay?
It was an active shooter. Everybody heard the children screaming. All the 911 calls never ended. The screaming never ended from the room. The gunshots never ended. They kept going. Okay? In the new interview, guess what Officer Alvarado is telling the public? In the new interview, Officer Alvarado is telling NBC, all these big news stations, that while he was in there, he heard no screams. And he heard no shots fired. How can Officer Alvarado claim that when the parents at the street, at the fence, heard that which he claims not to hear now? He was not the one that took out the shooter either. The shooter was taken out by specialized group that got there and was detained for 40 minutes. They were not allowed entry into the school. If you were finding keys for the door, then why didn't you even allow Bortak to even go into the hallway? Why? What were y'all hiding? What were y'all hiding? How come there was not full disclosure? How come there was not transparency with the Bortak team? If your mission was all the same mission, which should have been, we're going to all enact post-Columbine. Or did they think that by leaving Bortak outside, they were going to continue with their lie, that they were no longer dealing with an active shooter, and now they were just dealing with a barricaded subject? Which I explained to you by the first man that was part of the SWAT team that entered Columbine. I read you his words. Columbine changed everything. Everything. When there is an active shooter, you continue to engage the shooter. So you're going to tell me that Officer Alvarado did not hear the screams that the parents heard, did not hear the gunshots that the parents heard? Really? Because that's what they want you to believe. That's what he wants you to believe. That's what his family wants you to believe. That's what they want you to believe. So, and instead of attacking my logic, they don't want you to believe I'm a nurse. They don't want you to believe I have my 4-year degree. I'm a biologist. They don't want you to believe that I have any kind of credibility. That I'm not here telling some fantasy tale. I'm here letting you know what was stated and what is being stated now. This is not something that's being made up here. What is his family going to do when the Department of Justice questions him and says, wait a minute, can you please tell us, because we need to form a good timeline, can you please tell us who were the people that were helping you and had your back? And why did you need somebody to have your back if everybody was told that the subject was barricaded? That means you didn't need to pull those officers away to have your back. You did not need to form a plan with them. What you needed to do, you led them. You led them, which means you led them away from their duty. You led them. You had a weapon. You knew that everybody else outside of that classroom was in no immediate threat. In fact, you all were trying to get to the shooter, right? If you're trying to get to where the bullets are coming from, guess what that means? That means Officer Alvarado did not need backup. He did not need to form a plan. He had a weapon. All he needed to do was go in there, secure his wife, secure his daughter, and secure all the other children that he saved, which is wonderful. But that's not what happened. What happened was he went in there immediately by his words, his own admission, which he's no longer stating the story, but it's too bad because the story's already out there. He's letting you know. He's no longer repeating what he said in the beginning. Now, let me remind you about post-Columbine active shooter protocol. Okay? And once again, this is not, Officer Alvarado never once approached the subject. In fact, in his new interviews, he's now stating this. Oh, I was going to. 3 days prior, you told people your first mission was to secure your daughter, secure your wife, use the police, take them away because you formed a plan with them. They covered you. They had your back. You led them. They were behind you. So instead of being over there trying to engage the shooter and get into the classroom to save the 2 educators that died, to save the children that were shot, to save any other children from being shot, and to save any other children from being injured, and to save the few survivors that survived. Instead of doing that, Officer Alvarado got the whole group of officers and they had his back, knowing that his wife, his child, and all those other students were saved. And let me tell you, well, he's a hero to his wife. Of course he is. He's a hero to the children. Of course he is. He's a hero to the children who he saved that he's not related to. Of course he is. Ask the children of the deceased. information was being transmitted to the chief of police and the police that were there. How he may have made moves. You see, this is part of that's part of Officer Alvarado's family. They don't want me to make sense. They don't want me to explain this to you. They do not want me to talk about this. Why? Why? And I even asked, what is Alexis going to do? When Alexis was tagged into by Officer Alvarado's sister last night, I asked, well, what's Alexis going to do? You can tag all your family, all of them. What are they going to do? They're going to stop my First Amendment right? No. What they're going to do is they're going to be the catalyst to more videos that would not have otherwise. You guys come for me harder. I'm going to come for exposing a little bit more and a little bit more and putting it together a little bit better every single time. Because things that I have said here to clarify and substantiate, for instance, the way that officers are trained to have people pretending to be injured victims. I didn't mention that before, but guess what? It underscores my point in why this is all important. This video would not have been made had it not been for victims ever want to use my platform. They, by all means, I will drive to Uvalde. I will. But I don't reach out to victims. One time there was a child in Cameron County. I live in the bottommost tip of Texas, which is the Rio Grande Valley. There was a child who was making an outcry on social media, and she was a juvenile. So I already had a policy myself so that people won't say she's going out, she's bothering victims. And so the family, even when people say, can you help my sister? Can you help my so-and-so? Can you? So in that case, a lot of people were sending me her story. I said, first of all, my policy is that I do not go and ask victims if they need help. And two, because of the way that it will look. And two, she's a minor. She's a minor. It would look a little bit inappropriate for me to do that. But because of the seriousness of it, I said, if one of her adult family members, but you know what, made things a little bit better is that a law enforcement official from Cameron County actually reached out to me, knowing that I had a large reach, and said, Vanessa, can you please let them know that the person that did this to this girl has a warrant out? That made things a little bit easier for me getting involved in that. And so I cannot reach out to the mom.
Such a liar.
Unless the mom reaches out to me, by all means. Here, honey, tell your story. Here you go. Tell your story. Whatever you want to say. The camera's on you. Anybody. Parents of the children, you're not being heard by the media.
Hey, do you guys see the smoke? You see the smoke?
By all means.
Because I think because our pants are on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Ooh.
So even she smelled it.
Gas in his belly. Let me tell these people. Hold on. I just don't want these people to think that, like, I'm just sitting here.
Alrighty then. If somebody remembers where more or less it got cut off, the stream from earlier, so that we can go back and I can pop it on there. Wouldn't it be funny if she had locked herself out?
Okay. I just don't want them to think like this lady's just there on her phone, not just taking up a gas pump. No. How long that's gonna take? Let's see. I just heard the police are going to stop cooperating with the investigation. Oh yeah. Yo, the big dogs are involved. It's no longer the DPS. It's the Department of Justice. The U.S. Department of Justice is over everybody. Georgia, for instance, the state of Georgia has the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, right? They have their own little kind of like FBI before the state of Georgia. And in Texas, our counterpart, our equal to that is the Texas Rangers. And so the Department of Justice is over all of that. All of it. So of course they're not going to cooperate because they're going to see, they're waiting to see how bad they're going to be discovered. Because if they cooperate right now, it's going to look really bad because then they're going to have to change their story a little bit more. Once they get the final investigation, then they know, look, here's the final investigation. All right. Okay, you got it? You got it, right? You say, right? Right? Then it's less likely they increase their chances of, looking less bad. Right? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. We shouldn't hate cops. Somebody made a point on social media the other day.
What is that noise? What's that noise I hear in your car? I hear it all the time.
If you knew my story, you would know.
Is that like an air filter? I was
taken hostage and beaten.
Air purifier?
I was let down a lot by law enforcement when I asked for help for my children. A lot. Then one day everybody's going to know about that. Right? But just know that even me that has literally seen it, and I live in the Rio Grande Valley. Y'all, the other day I told you that the director of the FBI, James Comey, personally, back in 2016, I believe, 2015, 2016, right around there, visited McAllen, Texas. McAllen is one of the major cities of Hidalgo County, one of the two, Edinburgh is the county seat of Hidalgo County. But I believe McAllen is more populated, I think, than Edinburgh. Either way, it's one of the two major cities. And when have you ever seen the director of the FBI in any administration personally visit a region in the United States merely because of public corruption? It's South Texas, Rio Grande Valley. This and East-West Texas are known as the most corrupt areas of Texas. And of course, I come from down here. There's a lot of injustice down here. There's some everywhere, Vanessa. No, there's a lot down here. Ask Melissa Lucy on her family. First woman put on death row, literally. First Hispanic woman put on death row. And you know what's coincidence? She was coerced into an admission of guilt of killing her child.
Yes, that happens
a lot. She was broken down after hours and hours and hours and hours of interrogation.
6 hours.
Do you know who was interrogating her?
6 hours.
Coincidentally, one of the DPS troopers that gave the press conference 2 days after the Uvalde school shooting, I kid you not.
Why is that a big shocker?
Why?
Why?
He would literally say, sure, I'll be in front of the press conference, and it's like, sir, you don't think that people are going to recognize you from the documentary, The State of Texas versus Melissa, in which literally you are shown to be doing some things that the public will not like. They don't care. That's South Texas. That's Rio Grande Valley. So it's not surprising to me that a town 300 miles away from here is going to behave kind of the same way. And it's usually the areas, this is a high law enforcement area. We are on the border. The Rio Grande Valley sits, we have what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 international borders between Mexico and the United States. 5. Mm-hmm. Then, north, we have 2 checkpoints. When I tell you that we have a high law enforcement presence, we have a high law enforcement presence.
High law enforcement?
Very similar to
the hell was that?
Because they share similar characteristics. Mm-hmm. Not all officers are the same. Not all of them are. A lot of good officers have to live and work amongst this culture of other officers behaving in a way that they don't. And I feel really sorry for them. There's one thing for the public to deal with, and it's bad because a lot of us live a lot of injustices. Look at Melissa Lucio. Maliciously prosecuted, literal evidence kept away. Her lawyer worked with the district attorney because the district attorney wanted to look like a hero to his constituents in Cameron County. He wanted to put a child killer. Why do I do that? First of all, I'm country. I'm from Woods County.
She's country?
And you will hear my country sometimes.
Is that how country people talk?
A lot of times I love to speak with no accent. But when I'm very passionate about something, you're going to hear it. Especially when I'm talking about the good old boy system. It gives it a little bit more right? Instead of saying the good old boy system, the good old boy system. The good old boy system is what is prevalent throughout the southern states of the United States. And we all know what that is. It's who you know.
What's with the Ebonics? That still fascinates me.
And in the Rio Grande Valley, south of San Antonio,
country,
including other places.
Is that what happens to you guys?
What they're going through is the compadrismo system, which is essentially the good old boy system in Spanish. Compadres and comadres are very good friends and acquaintances. That's what that translates to. And it's all about who you're connected to, whether you're going to have justice or not. Yeah. Jessica Ramos, this officer is press conference for Uvalde is the same officer involved in Melissa Lucio case. I don't know if that's his name. I thought it was Victor Escalon. I may be wrong. All I know is I believe it's the one that they asked, can you say this in Spanish? And he was like, Then he just turned around. Like, really? Wow, okay. But yes, isn't that a coincidence?
You know, the problem I had with that particular press conference she's talking about
she had a documentary filmmaker
is that they really weren't ready for a press conference at that point.
Sabrina Van Tassel, everybody,
and it was a public wanted one.
Awareness and make sure that she
but you know what? It's their job to say, you know what? We don't have anything for you right now. When we have something, we'll get to you.
Shared her story, all that.
It was not a good press conference.
And this man literally thought, nobody's gonna recognize me. You were literally the same one from the State of Texas versus Melissa Lucio documentary that was literally mentally beating this woman into a confession, coercing her.
Sorry, but that doesn't matter. People
totally under duress
move up in the world. They get promotions. They change jobs.
Melissa Lucio.
Why is that a big deal? Why is that a surprise?
With the corruption, do you think it's a surprise that in all of Texas and in all of Texas history, the first Hispanic woman, do you know how many people we have on death row from the Rio Grande Valley?
Tell us.
If you were to take the numbers of the people that wind up in jail, the penitentiary, state jail, out of the Rio Grande Valley, Hidalgo County, and Cameron County, oh my goodness. It is not surprising. And you really want to think that it's because they're all criminals? Come on now. It is not surprising, knowing all that, the story that the first Hispanic female on death row was going to wind up coming out of where? That's right. The Rio Grande Valley. And you know what else kind of bothers me about that story about the state of Texas, Melissa Lucio, because they still have a battle ahead of them. And you really want to know about corruption? Please, if you really want to know a story about corruption, there is not a better case other than the Michael Morton. If you care about corruption and Hispanics, corruption and against Hispanics and Hispanic women, State of Texas versus Melissa. Go watch the documentary. Go watch the film. I promise you. At the end of it, you're going to be reeling because of the injustice. Oh my goodness. So, the only other case of injustice that I can consider is Michael Morton. The state of Texas versus Michael Morton. That's the reason that's a white man, though. That was a white man. But that's how bad the injustice is. That man did I don't know how many years in prison because a prosecutor held back evidence that was going to find Michael Morton innocent. And so that man did I don't know how many years. That's what the law is like in Texas.
Is she still sitting at the gas pump?
Yes.
That's right. She hasn't moved, has she?
Yes. Yes. Elia Angeles says, yes, they broke her, Melissa, mentally. No water, no food, hour after hour after hour after hour after hour. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm still putting gas. Yes. Y'all.
It does not take that long.
$40 of gas. And this whole time,
to fill up a car,
it's put $15.75. That's how slow the pump is going. That's crazy. That never happened to me. I'm like, what? No wonder the person in front of me was in a minivan, and I was like, what's taking him so long? And there I was. I can admit when I shouldn't be judging people, and there I was judging that man. Oh, how big is your gas tank? What's going on here? But no, it was going this slow. I didn't know that. Then I went when I wound up getting, you saw me in my last video, when I wound up getting the gas pump, I was like, all that time, and he only put 60.
You know, it's funny when she talks about something legitimate like that.
It's going that slow.
Since she BS's so much, nobody believes her, even on something like this.
Tell y'all what gas.
That's what happens.
So I can get some crazy coming up to my window, which I've had before. Yes, I have. Hello, Vanessa. I have a question. I'm sorry, this is off topic. I'm going through an incident. I had to press charges against a student in my school, but the ISD officer got date of birth wrong. What will...
Is that her phone? That's annoying as you know what. I'm going to refresh that page. Stand by. Screenshot. She best move away from the gas station. I'll try to refresh again. Give it a second. Obviously, that refresh did not work. All right.
In Texas, their school police is taking care of that. They're going to find a way to, for instance, let's say you're pressing charges against somebody like that. You know how they're going to save them? By accidentally sending the case to the wrong court, right? That's one way. Another way is to write down a date of birth wrong. You asked me, I'm telling you.
And she would know. She would know.
Yeah. How are they going to get a date of birth wrong? And how is getting a date of birth wrong going to preclude you from then fixing that? The problem is that if they get guilty, and if that offense happened on campus, remember that I told you that resource officers depend on the statistics of how safe their campus is. If it's too safe, then they don't get as much funding. But if it's too dangerous, they lose their funding, because what do we have you there for? So they have to keep this weird, inappropriate average that they control. And if they are not helping some parent that's connected, and that's why the student who was the assailant is somehow on a technicality, they're not pursuing charges, then it is because they're trying to maintain their statistics. Because if you get it guilty, they're going to come back on them. They're going to be like, where were you? What happened here? How did this child, get, what's going on here? And what was the history of that assailant before? And should you have done something about their behavior before? And please don't tell me that it was just an isolated incident. So all you have to do is go through the deportment of that person that is, did the harm and is being charged, and you can see where probably school police or school officials should have intervened a long time previous to that. And then, of course, you have the opening of a lawsuit, and who wants that, right? So it's much better to just find a technicality and just break it to the person who's the victim, because they want you to think, no, we can't pursue it. And they think that after a year or two, you're just going to forget about it. And to be honest with you, most parents do forget about it. They do, because teenagers grow fast. They grow fast. And whenever you're so angry and hurt that somebody hurt your child, the summer passes. Just ask a parent who has tried to make a complaint against a school in Texas to go through the level 1, level 2, level 3 grievance process. That's an absolute joke. And let's say something happens to your kid at the beginning of the school year. You got to go through level 1. What you want, because they think that you're not going to go to level 2. So you go to level 2. They wait another 30 days, right? And they don't give you what you want. This is what they do. And then they wait another 30 days, because this time you're going to push it. You're going to go to level 3. They still don't give you what you want. Most parents don't even start a level 1 complaint. They don't realize they have to ask for the paperwork, because the school's not going to give it to you. So if you're a parent in Texas and you think that you're going to call a school district and you're going to talk to the principal and you're going to complain to the principal, do you all know that a principal in Texas don't have to do a damn thing about your complaint? And if you want something to be done, you must write a level 1 complaint. You must.
Thank you.
Because they are not obligated under the government code. They are not obligated.
Oh, that's freaking annoying.
Most parents don't even, but parents don't know that. They think that by taking the time off their workday to go in and speak to the principal, they're getting the job done. If you didn't fill out a level 1, they ain't going to do anything, and they're not obligated to do anything. Oh, believe me, most every issue that y'all care about, believe me, I've been through it.
Believe me.
The hell was that? I went into the store and saying, you know what, just give me the rest of my money. Please, just give me the rest of my money. No, hateful folks. Yes. So many precious babies could have been saved. We know that. We know that. We know that. Yeah, no. Monica and Ralph, just so you know. If you tell people, don't go to the principal, go to the superintendent. Same goes for talking to the superintendent. I promise you, it's the school code in every school district in Texas. You think you're going to be serious? You're serious, right? You're going to go and this is a serious matter. You're going to talk. It don't matter if it's an essay, that kind of assault, or any other kind of assault, right? You're serious and you're going to talk to the superintendent. Guess what? They don't have to do anything because you didn't fill out a level 1 complaint. Just so that you know. Don't believe me? Google Texas schools level 1 complaint and the whole process will come out. And you'll know that every complaint that's ever been made to a principal from the beginning of time since they made that law to principal, superintendent, anybody, it literally falls on deaf ears unless you start the level 1 complaint process. And even when you do it, they do it the way that I explained it just a couple of minutes ago. They do it to tire you out, to wear you out. Yeah. There's nobody behind me. Nobody. Oh my goodness. You know how much I go in there and be like, you know what? That's enough gas. I paid with my card. So if I don't put it all,
Yeah, you can just stop the pump.
If you go straight to the school board, same thing. Promise you. I swear to you, I promise you. Let's say it's a very serious issue. You don't want to go to this principal. You're not going to go to the superintendent. You're going to go straight to the school board. When's the next school board meeting? Let me put my name down. I'm going to speak in the comment section. I'm going to record it. I'm going to let everybody know, all my community know that I am even going to live stream it. I promise you. They do not have a duty to act unless you submitted a level 1 complaint. I promise you. I promise you this. I'm not exaggerating.
She says she's pumping gas, but it's moving. It's pumping very slow.
No parents. Had 4 children. 2 of them graduate high school. I bet you there's parents that have raised a whole generation, all their children, they've all graduated high school. And some of them may have had issues where they needed a problem addressed and their problem was never addressed. That's why you never filled out a level 1 complaint. And they will not explain this to parents. So no matter if you go directly to the superintendent, directly to the school board, to the news, I'm going to go to the local news. They're not going to do anything. Their obligation doesn't start until the day that you submit a level 1 complaint. And even then, they wear you out by the time you get to level 3, if you ever even get to level 2. Marisol, on your school's website, there should be a level 1 complaint. There should be a level 1 complaint. Every principal, if a parent asks for a level 1 complaint and they don't give it to you, please let me know. Go to the principal, ask for one. They should give it to you. Ask them for 2 copies, just in case you mess up on one. If they tell you they don't know what you're talking about, they're lying. They're lying. If anything, you should be able to print it out from your school's website. If it's a good school, you can print it out from your school's website. They post it. If it's not a good school, they won't have the level 1 complaints there because they do not want parents to know about level 1 complaints. That's why they don't have them there for you to just go ahead and pick up. Because they don't want to have everybody doing what they're doing. They don't want the obligation of you making a complaint in which they have now a duty to act upon. Instead, they're going to have you with a chicken without a head, literally all like, oh my God, what am I going to do? My kid's getting bullied. He's getting beat up. This happened to my daughter, blah, 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 all of that, all of this, all of that. Let me go to the school board. Let me go to the school superintendent. Meeting. Let me go to the news. And even with all that, they don't have to do a damn thing because you didn't fill out a level 1 complaint. Get it from TEA. If you cannot get it from the school, you call TEA and you write them and you say, I'm trying to get a Texas Education Association, a Texas Education Agency. They are the bosses of every single school district in Texas. They have the ability to even take over an entire school district depending on how badly they're behaving. But schools always get away with it, and so hardly any are ever taken over. In fact, the only school district that I've ever had known of in the history of Texas to be taken over is, guess where again? Guess where? Right here in the good old Rio Grande Valley. Yeah, the same area that was visited by James
The
Comey,
gas
the director
is
of the FBI
pumping
7 years
so
before.
slow,
Same
and she's got her
ones,
air conditioner on.
The first woman.
It's probably burning up as she's putting it in, so she's going to sit there for 20 hours.
Should never have been on death row. So the only school that I know of, school district that has been taken over, was Progresso ISD in Progresso, Texas. They were so badly behaving, the TEA had to go in, and when they do a takeover, that means they disband the school board. The school board is, all the powers are taken away from the school board, and they are assigned somebody that's going to be overseeing everything while they repair their problems in a corrective action plan. Oh, no. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not even kidding you. I want to leave. It's $25.93. There should be a sign on this pump saying it's slow, just so you know it's slow. For real. This is crazy. $26.10. And you know what? It's only 6.2 gallons. All that money in 6.2 gallons. Corrective action plan. Yes, when they take over a school district, they disband the school board. They took away all the power from the school board, and they might assign a person to be like the liaison between the school now and TEA. They'll do that sometimes. But Progresso ISD was so badly behaving that they disbanded the school board and they initiated a takeover of the entire school district. That's how bad it was, the corruption. Yes, a turtle moves faster than that. Seriously. I have never. $26.68. Anyway. Anybody else have a question? A few of what?
Did she just quit talking about Uvalde?
Oh, thank you. Randy Jane says, you have so much inside knowledge. Thank you for sharing. You know why I have that? It came at a cost. I went through all of it.
People, she's got no inside knowledge.
I was that parent. So when you follow a code of ethics as a nurse for 25 years, since the age of 18, you kind of expect all the other kind of disciplines, right, to behave accordingly, especially when you're on the spectrum like me, when you're a person with autism.
So between doing the live earlier for how many hours?
Game book, you need to follow this.
2.5.
So whenever I started having
sitting here at the pump, taking her time, but she's in her scrubs supposedly, right? Doesn't that seem funky? Let me refresh.
Whenever I started having problems, when my second son was in 6th grade, I was trying to get him special education because they had him in some other program. And I knew he needed special education. Then I looked at the school code. I read all the government code, the Child Find Act, IDEA. IDEA is the Bible of special ed. I read it all of it. Empowered with this knowledge, I went into his school and I demanded that my son, who they had been giving ADHD medication to, literally dispensing it since he was in 3rd grade, which automatically qualified him to be considered for special ed. Seriously. They said, no, we're going to put him in section 504. Okay.
Hey, guys.
I saw my son was not developing.
Do you see the corner up here?
The same level.
Where the pump is at?
And then I also remembered that
I see a pump.
Have to be on 504 and your grades.
Do you see
declining. All you have to be is your grades staying at the same level.
Or is that my imagination?
Okay. So they were listening. So then we went, finally, they gave it to me. They put me in the first special ed. They gave me a diagnostician. And they were literally telling, and I was like, why are y'all doing all this? Like, my son literally qualifies because I read the federal law. Like, this is just a technicality because at the end of this, you're going to assign my son special ed. My son was having class A assaults. He was being assaulted and assaulted and assaulted and assaulted because we were no violence, don't hit them back, because we knew the damage that my son could do if we let him. And so me and his father were like, don't hit back. Eventually it'll end. It never ended. It got worse. So during this time, I was still trying to find him special ed, but then I find out, no, you don't want to give him special ed because then that adds a duty to the school because special ed students are now protected under IDEA.
Who's worse?
You cannot allow them to get bullied.
This or Amber Heard?
But they couldn't control the bullies. They were coming after my son. So instead, they denied me special ed through 2 diagnosticians. 2. Then I said, you know what? No. And they said, fine, we'll give you a 3rd one. And I said, under IDEA, it says that I can find my own diagnostician. And I said, well, yeah, but they were like, no parent ever does that. Well, I'm not just any parent. So what did I do? I traveled all the way to Corpus Christi.
She's telling another BS story, so I'm going to talk over this.
The diagnostic.
You guys see that? I see a pump hooked up.
Brilliant.
The gun, the business end, hooked up at the pump.
To be a diagnostician,
not in the car.
It's a huge, entire, in-depth program.
What's up with that?
He certifies people to be diagnosticians. He is the teacher, instructor of the diagnostician program. Yes. I got somebody that they could not refute. And finally, because I bypassed all their little corruption, let's get another one from here. No, well, I ain't gonna get one. I don't even want one from the Rio Grande Valley. Believe me, I will get my own. And I did. And guess what? In his report, he stated, this boy should have been in special ed since 3rd grade. And the school is making this parent seem like she's the problem when she's not. He literally wrote that in the report. Yeah.
So,
but by that time, I had already pulled my son out of that school. And what a coincidence that when I put him in did you all know that the largest school district in Texas is South Texas ISD? That is it's here in the Rio Grande Valley. It's literally the largest because it encompasses the entire Rio Grande Valley, and it has different schools everywhere, right? From junior high all the way to high school. So when I moved my son out of his home district into South Texas ISD, within a month, they identified him as special ed. But this is where it gets worse. This right here. You want to know how bad Texas is?
Enlighten us.
On September the 16th of 2016, me and my son traveled to Austin because Austin was about to vote on okaying an inappropriate history book, college level, I believe, that literally displayed Hispanics in a most negative light. They really thought they were going to get away with that. So me and my son go over there. See, I'm getting to the good part. I'm getting to the real good part. You see? Those are my longtime haters following me. Right there. They already know what's coming. They already know what's coming. They know. Because I did something that no other legislator did.
Gonna refresh. Hold on.
They really thought they were going to get away. Written by the Houston Chronicle, by Brian Rosenthal. I find out later that Brian Rosenthal also was a student that had special ed, except he had a physical disability, and he wound up being this famous, Texas famous reporter. So this subject was very near and dear to his heart. Still have $10 away from my hand. So it was called How Texas Has Systematically Denied Special
Even
Education.
A slow pump. I've never seen one that slow before.
Special ed students. I read the entire article.
You think she'd have enough gas to just cut it off
in that moment
and go somewhere else and
my son
pump gas?
Was one of those 2.5 million special ed students.
And she only looks every 10 or 15 minutes.
What does that mean? That means for 10 years, from 2004 to 2014, Texas said if 25% of students in a school district need special ed, you're only going to service 8.5. If 30, 40, if half the students in a school district in Texas require special education, you will only service 8.5%. Well, what about the other 20%? F them. Unbelievable, right? 250,000 students every year for 10 years, amounting to 2.5 million Texans. These are not just children. Children are the most vulnerable.
What do you guys want to do? Do you want to stick with this live, see where it goes, or do you want to go back to the earlier live?
What is a
Let me know.
Category that is the most vulnerable of students, of children? That's right, special ed students. So y'all, this is a state that has literally created one of the worst atrocities you can possibly think of in the education system, and no one talks about it. So in that moment, I told my son, I know that we came over here to Austin for one thing, but tomorrow I looked really quickly and I said, when is the next, this ain't no little school board meeting in Texas. This ain't no little high school, little small town, little school board meeting, or even a big town school board meeting. This was the capital. This was the State Board of Education. I was like, when's their next board meeting? It just so happened that it was the next morning. So I told my son, I know that we were here to protest this inappropriate Mexican-American textbook. However, look, the real good part's coming. The real good part's coming. And they don't want you to know the real good part. They don't want you to know what I did.
What did you do? She didn't do anything.
They don't want you to know. Look. Let them have their laugh. Build it up a little bit. They don't want you to know. They already know what's coming because those are my longtime haters following me. They know what's coming. Look at how strange they are in their minds. Watch. They know. You all don't know. Your new followers, my new followers, y'all don't know, but they know what's coming. They know exactly what I'm going to say. All right, here we go. So we get there, and instead of going to go protest at the Capitol like we were supposed to. Are you kidding me? It stopped at that? It stopped. Hold on, you guys.
Watch the pump.
It still stopped about $9 short of what I actually put. You want to hear the good part?
She just picked it up and put it back on.
Let me park away from here so people can
Oh my
use this
goodness.
very slow gas pump. Okay, here we go. Let's get to the good part, right? This is what they don't want you to know. Officer Abelardo's family. If you're listening up until this point,
Alvarado.
this is
Alvarado.
oh, you should understand.
Say it 3 times like you do everything else. Alvarado.
Things like what you're trying to do. So I went before. I told my Jesse, I said, we need to go to the State Board of Education. They're having their literally like a meeting every 3 or 4 months. Yep, they know it's coming. And they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. They want you to think it's laughable. Laughable. How many of you parents, right now when I tell you what I did, I'm interested to know in how many of you get in those 2.5 million students over the course of 10 years in Texas, do you know what kind of special ed students did not get special ed? It wasn't the ones with physical disabilities. They had to.
Right? She went back there.
To give special ed to the ones with physical disabilities.
She went back there.
Wheelchair.
Picked it up, put it back on. And she didn't even pretend to close the gas cap and the little door. She didn't do any of that.
The ones that suffered, those 2.5 million, were mostly children with non-physical disabilities that you could not see. Children on the spectrum. Children with ADHD. Children with dyslexia. Because how are you going to, it's easier to deny them because their physical disability is not seen. How many of those 2.5 million special ed students grew up into Texans that wound up in the criminal justice system or took their life or went down the wrong path simply because we failed to identify them? 2.5 million. So I told my Jesse, this is what we're going to do. We have to go to the State Board of Education. So I signed my name. All right. And then I had done my speech like 10 minutes before. And I told them, in the comments of this or in the caption of this, I'll go ahead and I will, all you have to do is look up Vanessa Tijerina Special Education. That's it. If you look it up on YouTube, you're going to see it right there. The very same speech that I'm telling you right now. The very same one. So I tell them, my son is one of these 2.5 million kids. I tell them everything, right? You'll see it. I'll post the video. I'm telling you this to let you know how bad Texas is. It was because of this issue that I knew how bad my state could be. Because if 2.5 million of the most vulnerable of Texans could be ignored, then of course they're not going to care about how many people die in a freeze all over Texas. Of course they're not going to care about changing gun legislation, right? Of course they're not going to care about making officers accountable, right? If Texas can let down 2.5 million special ed children, I knew any atrocity was possible. So I gave them the speech. And at the end, I told them the world is watching. They didn't care. They ignored me. So from September to December of that year, I wrote the U.S. Department of Education. It's okay, Texas. You don't want to listen to me? That's fine. That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to write to Washington. I'm going to write to your bosses. You see, because you're the state. You're Texas State Board of Education. Your mandating agency is the U.S. Department of Education. And so when you go to the final, you have to prove that you went through everything below. And thank goodness they ignored me. So I wrote, and it took like 3 months of correspondence. And all of a sudden,
I'm sure she wrote, right?
I got an email saying, we heard you. We're going to make 5 meetings in Texas. North Texas, East Texas, West Texas, and Central Texas.
Can you show us the email, please?
The last one's going to be in South Texas. It's going to be in Edinburgh. Didn't I just tell you at the beginning of this video that Edinburgh is the county seat of Hidalgo County?
Okay.
That's where Region 1 is.
Show us the email.
You educators know what Region 1 is, right? What is she talking about? Now she thinks she knows about educational issues? I'm the woman that did what I'm about to tell you I did.
Ugh.
So when they reached out to me, they said, we're going to make our last meeting in Edinburgh. Can you please repeat?
Oh, crap. Let's see how often this happens. I mean,
education.
Oh.
And I said, sure, why? Why though? And they said, because of all the thousands of complaints that we got about this issue, your speech incorporated everything that everyone else had complained about even once, but also things that are important and critical that no one else had ever even thought of mentioning. And I said, okay. So I get there and I give the speech word for word, the same one. Before the U.S. Department of Education, right there, right before me. Yes, that same U.S. Department of Education. Brown versus Board of Education, that U.S. Department of Education. Plessy versus Ferguson, that U.S. Department of Education. That U.S. Department of Education, yes, Washington. So I gave them my speech that they asked me to give. And 1 month later, Washington, D.C. cracked down on Abbott, our Governor Abbott, and forced the state of Texas to enact a corrective action plan. Yep. That happened. Don't believe me? You will see my speech and you will see the date of my speech before Texas Board of Education. And then if you just Google my name, Vanessa Tijerina Special Education, you will see where 4 months later, I'm giving the same speech before the U.S. Board of Education. Them people right there don't like that. They don't like it. Laugh at her. No, don't praise her. Don't give her hearts. Don't give her stars. Don't give her likes. Laugh at her. Laugh at her. Laugh at her the way we're laughing at her. So, Alvarados, I dealt with the state of Texas.
Oh, good Lord.
Relentlessly petition to Washington, D.C. Yes. So what makes y'all think that a family from Uvalde is going to silence me? Right? One time, my local police department, who happened to save me and rescue me 7 years later, thank you, during that beating that I told you that I survived, where they beat my face for 3 hours. This is another law for the Alvarados. So they were treating me some kind of way. Now that I was going to the city meetings, I was telling my mayor, hey, I deserve this. This is my right. I was telling the city prosecutor, I was telling the chief police, everything. They were just ignoring me. Okay. Write a letter to the United States Department of Justice. Why are you writing a letter to the United States Department of Justice, Vanessa? Because I'm a person on the spectrum. You're not just going to ignore me or treat me with some kind of injustice. I have disability rights. But you have to have disability. You have to have a disability check. No, you don't. No, you don't. You see, when all that was happening with my son, I also read the entire legislative law regarding Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So when you are in high school and below, and you have a documented disability, your Bible to survive is IDEA. When you transition and you graduate from high school into adulthood, your Bible in all 50 states to protect yourself is Title II of the ADA Act. So they won't let, okay. I wrote a letter to the U.S. Department of Justice. One letter. That's all it took. So then I'm there waiting one day thinking that they never heard me ever. And then all of a sudden the FBI walks in. Because if y'all don't know this, the department under the U.S. Department of Justice that takes care of ADA complaints and violations is the FBI. I don't know why they have it that way, but it is. So there I am in my small town, and I get a call and they're like, Miss Tijerina, may we speak to you? I said, sure. This is FBI agent so-and-so. Okay. And then they went back there to talk to the people in charge of my town. Yeah. They didn't believe me when I told them, don't make me get the FBI involved in this. Literally, these are my disability rights. Are you kidding me? I don't understand things like other people understand them. I need it in writing. This is very essential for me to understand here. Plus, the way you got me feeling, I need to read it. I need to read it to know it. Yeah. That's who I am. That's who I am. Okay? No, I'm not a lawyer. As a matter of fact, the first time that corruption entered my life, was 2 weeks.
Anybody who doesn't want to watch the stream, you are free to go, brother. This is a free country, and I got my reasons, which I don't need to explain to you, which I just did. And change the channel, bro. No hard feelings.
Biology, so that I can go into law school. And then all of this bullying stuff happened to both of my sons at the same time. And then a big old mess happened with the same department. I'm hoping that over time they've changed, obviously, right? Well, they rescued me, right? 6 years later, but still. Anyways,
you know they're trolls. People come and bitch and complain, yet they're here watching. You don't want to watch? Go somewhere else.
I know what I know, and
I'm not copying anybody.
Me. They literally stole.
I'm not leaving this here, walking away, just letting you guys watch and talk. I interact and I comment, and my people know. That's all that matters.
Got taken hostage.
Just having fun.
And the people that are from my hometown, whether they love me or hate me, they know it's true.
Nobody hates you. They just...
Section 504
just annoying.
Is an intermediary program between general education and special education. Part of the systematic denial of special education from 2004 to 2014 to the tune of 2.5 million special ed students. Part of their systematic, this was a system. They instructed school districts on how to avoid giving special ed, how to avoid it when a parent asks for it, even though federal law states you must. This is why they're in trouble. Just Google Texas special ed and it will, everything I told you right now will come out. You know, everything. It's barely coming up right now. It's taken a couple years for this to start getting taken care of. So, Section 504 is between general ed but they were avoiding, one of the ways that they were avoiding and allowing 2.5 million special ed kids to amount with no special ed is because for 10 years,
I really do want to go.
Kids that
I'll leave it here for a while, but I want to go back to.
They need Section 504.
The Uvalde situation. We're not done hearing her on that.
Same as special ed. No. You need Section 504. No. You need Section 504. No. You need Section 504. I kid you not. I'm not lying.
I'm not bullying. You should look up what bullying is. And then watch this one.
Section 504. So if you want your child to be evaluated for special ed, it is your right to go to the principal and demand a packet, a special ed packet. It don't matter what BS they give you, they need to hand over a packet to you. Period. You fill it out, make a copy of it, and send it back to them. They will immediately set up a meeting. Your child will have to meet with a diagnostician. They go through the whole thing, but yeah. If they try to tell you, no, we're going to try Section 504 first, that's corruption. They're not supposed to try Section 504 first if you are insisting for them to be evaluated under special ed. Just so that you know. I used my own diagnostician after the second time that they were like, no, you're wrong. Let me show you that I'm not wrong. And I showed them that I wasn't wrong. Jessica Ramos Robles says, did you ever get retaliated against when you went up against the school, Section 504? In every way you can imagine. In every way. In every way. So when I saw what happened to these children in Uvalde, I knew. Things didn't make sense, and I knew. I said, this don't seem right. This don't seem right at all. There's too many questions. What? 91 minutes? 40 minutes for that? No. No, what? This hero did this? No. Mm-mm. So this is a woman who has seen Texas behave like it's worse in every way. And I've actually been on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know
Not just watching it, literally experiencing it.
I don't know if I'd call it right.
So when I saw what happened,
but people like to watch a train wreck. So
no. And then
she insulted a lot of people in Uvalde, and you'll see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what's my opinion on the STAR test? That's one of the things that I said. I told them, you all, it's the state of Texas, you will see my speech. That's one of the things I said. I said, you all have gone 10 years denying 2.5 million students special education, which means that you're forcing, for 10 years, Texas forced teachers to mainstream students that really should have been in special ed. And then you force these students to be mainstreamed when they shouldn't have been in general ed. And instead, you force them to be in general ed. And then you force them to take the STAR test. And then you use the results of those STAR tests against the student and against the school and against the teachers. When really, a lot of those students were special ed, yet you were using their poor scores to say, hey, teacher, you're not doing your job. Hey, school district, you're not doing your job.
Yeah, she's at the gas station.
Student,
she
you ain't doing your job.
Fake hung up the pump.
That was one
then
of many points.
I assume she drove forward into a parking spot. That
I repeated to the U.S. Board of Education. What do I think about the STAR test? I think it's absolutely ridiculous to have a standardized testing. And there is no statistics that show that standardized testing helps anybody but who? The companies that make standardized testing. Yeah. Oh, wow. What? Lindsay Rodriguez says because of the test, they didn't let her graduate, that because it was only dyslexia. Only dyslexia? What do you mean only dyslexia? What do you mean only dyslexia? What do you mean only dyslexia? That is a major diagnosis that majorly delays your outcome and your ability to perform at your maximum as a student. What do you mean only dyslexia? No. Please tell me that child was in special ed. And if that child was not in special ed, that child is one of the 2.5 million likely special ed students that were denied special education. Yeah. Exactly. Education is not about profit, it's about teaching our youth. Exactly. And unfortunately, standardized testing has changed all of it. So now teaching has become about passing a test instead of learning what it is you need to learn to be a functional member of society and function at your maximum. Instead, all curriculums point to how to pass a standardized test. I've been talking to y'all for a long time. 2.5 million in Texas. Google Brian Rosenthal, Rosenthal. Brian, Brian, Brian Rosenthal. When I share you the YouTube video where I addressed Texas Board of Education, I told them and I referred to them. When you hear me say the Rosenthal reports, this guy didn't do just one article. He did an entire series because it was that complicated. The way that he exposed them was brilliant. Because he said,
you guys want to see how the BS goes around and starts by people don't know anything about anything and they start.
Students, none of this is funny, but that's my haters. Just don't mind them. The average percentage of special ed students per school district in any state in the nation is 15 to 25%. 15 to 25%. It makes sense. Because being neurodivergent, you are one of 25% of the population. Neurotypicals make up 75% of the population.
People can think what they want. Nobody knows who my mods are.
Average amount of people actually needing in all the other states.
Actually, they're not even from Texas, so
15 to 25%.
Nowhere near here, and not related to anybody, any of these shows at all.
All the other states.
And that person in that message is not my mod.
The average
I will make that absolutely perfectly clear.
A special ed student.
Why would I do that?
In all
Why would I do that?
States was 15 to 25%.
Whatever.
You know what Texas was, y'all? 8.5. That's how Brian Rosenthal exposed them. Because he was like, what's the wonderful thing Texas is doing?
Yeah, it said
wonderful thing that Texas is doing to make sure. How come
hey V, they just messaged me. LJO to Manny has Annette Gonzalez as moderator. So they think Annette Gonzalez is one of my moderators.
What is the wonderful thing Texas is
and who
doing?
messaged them? All that crap going around? Probably nobody. There's people starting stupid crap. I don't care. It's not true, but still, this doesn't bother me.
They allowed 8.5%. It was a budget thing. How can you have half a student? That was the first giveaway.
That's the problem.
How can you have 0.5
for any of these people?
0.5 and how
that want to say shit or talk shit or do whatever. I don't care. I don't give a F. You can't hurt my feelings. You see, when you ask the other states and you try, have fun.
It was an average.
I don't care. Everything.
So, Oklahoma.
So knock yourself out.
Más o menos from 10% to 30% to come up with an average. No. Every single school district in Texas, in the 250 plus counties in Texas, all maxed out at 8.5% in every district. It was the same number in every district.
Oh, okay. See how much of a coconut I am?
There you go.
So apparently LJOTO.
All right.
LJOTO. She's gone. Message that person to let them know that it's telling them who a moderator is. Oh my goodness. I need to get something to eat. I want to stream the other video, but I need to get me some dinner. I think we're going to take a food break, and then I'll come back and stream the rest. And if you can't watch it tonight, you can always watch it later on, but I'm going to stream it tonight. Yeah, her live just ended. It just stopped. So, but it's funny how she deflected from the situation earlier. So I'm going to take a break for dinner, and then I'll come back in a little while. Love you guys hanging out with me. Hope you're entertained. And it was good until whatever she went off on this she's talking about. And I was hoping she'd get back onto the Uvalde thing, but she wasn't. So I'll come back a little bit later and I'll stream. We'll continue on the other, which I found out was at about 23 minutes in. That's when they got kind of died. So we'll continue from there. All right, guys. Go get some food or take a break or do whatever you got to do. Come back to me later.